I'm gonna use the chord mode to record some nice chords. Hey, what is going on, people? It's Low Heat, and in this video I'm gonna be showing you how to use a hardware synth with Maschine. I'm gonna be using the Maschine MK3, but it should work in pretty much the same way on the Maschine Plus. And for all you DAW setup people using the Maschine Plus, I think it's gonna be really useful if you want to integrate your hardware synth, set up the MIDI routing and record it as audio. And in this case I'm gonna be using the Arturia Microfreak, but you can apply these principles on pretty much any hardware synth you may have. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're into Ableton and Maschine tutorials. Give the video a thumbs up, and now let's get right into the tutorial. So first things first, you need to connect your synth. You need to make the MIDI or USB connection and the audio connection. I've got my Arturia Microfreak connected via USB to my computer, and I've connected the audio output of the Microfreak to line input 1 on my Maschine MK3. If you're using an older synth and it doesn't have USB, you will need to use a MIDI cable and connect it to Machine's MIDI ins and outs. So you will need two MIDI cables in this situation, but most modern synths have USB ports, which provide the MIDI in and MIDI out from the synth. Second thing you need to do is go to your settings, to the MIDI tab of the settings window, and set up your MIDI ins and outs. So if you're gonna be using the synth also as a MIDI keyboard to send MIDI into Maschine, you will need to enable it as a MIDI input device. So I'll enable my Microfreak, and you'll definitely need to enable it as an output device if you want to send MIDI to it. And in order to synchronize the sequencers, you go to MIDI sync, set it to send clock, go to the settings on your synth, and it's going to be different for every synth, but it's generally in your settings or your utility. Go to the sync, and as a source it usually sets to internal by default, and I set it to USB. So now when I play Maschine, it will start the sequencer of the Microfreak and they will be synchronized in terms of BPM. Okay, so let's set up a sound in Maschine to send MIDI to the Microfreak. Go to channel, go to output, and in terms of output we select our synth as the destination. So I go back to the input and set up the input that I have the synth connected to as an audio source. In this case it's input 1. So now if I send MIDI to the synth by pressing the pad, I should be able to hear it. So the output of the synth is kind of quiet, so we can bump up the gain here. And also you can bump up the gain in the back of your machine with the input gain control. So let's record some MIDI. Actually, I'm gonna use the chord mode to record some nice chords. Let's record. So now that we've recorded the MIDI, let's record the audio back into Maschine. I'm gonna exit the chord mode, go to pad mode, go to sound 2, go to the sampling section, and I set up the recording as loop recording. Set up the length as the number of bars that I need to record. Target, doesn't really matter at this point, I'm gonna be using sound. I've got another tutorial on how to record audio in Maschine. I'm gonna put the card up in the right hand corner of the video so you can check out that tutorial too. And of course make sure that I've got the correct input selected, external input mono, and it's gonna be input 1. I just press start and it's waiting for me to start the sequencer. Let's try to record some MIDI from the Microfreak for the bass line. I went to group C. I set it up again as I did in group B. I'm gonna record the Microfreak's keyboard, but just in case you hear any doubling when you're playing from the keyboard, because the keyboard is sending MIDI to Maschine, but it's also sending MIDI to the internal sound engine, and sending the MIDI twice can result in a doubling when you hear the sound being triggered really quickly 2 times instead of 1. So what you need to do on your synth, regardless what synth you use, you need to go to Utility, to MIDI, and set up the local to off, which means that the keyboard will not trigger the internal sound engine, so it will only receive MIDI from Maschine. And of course you can tweak the sound or change the preset before you record as audio. So this bass patch is an octave lower than it should be in my opinion, so I can go to the output of my sound and transpose the MIDI by an octave. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Drop me a comment down below, give the video a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next one.